Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Girls Gotta Talk podcast. Streaming platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, anywhere you stream your podcast, or we are here on YouTube, Girls Gotta Talk podcast. You could come subscribe, join the fam over there. Yeah. Last episode was kind of a meeting my younger self. I kind of did that trend of I met my younger self for coffee type situation, and I was looking at when everyone posted little reels or things about that, and I loved it. So I thought I can turn it into a podcast episode. So that was honestly really fun and exciting to do. I loved kind of thinking back and just doing that. But I know I said in the following episode that that was kind of so that one was kind of 10 years prior. I kind of did a meet my younger self kind of 10 years ago. This episode is kind of going to be more so future related. I think I mentioned in the last episode that this one would be 20s versus 30s type situation. I'm currently 28, so I am end 30s end 30s and 20s and about to hit 30 in a couple years. This year I turned 29, so it'll be my last year in my 20s before we hit the big 3-0 in 2026. My birthday's in September, so I still have at least 6 more months until I'm in my last year of my 20s. But if you don't follow the Girls Gotta Talk Instagram page, I put up a question box for anyone that was following that is possibly in their 30s, if not older, to kind of give me little things that were different between your 20s and your 30s, whether it was physical, mental. I don't know. I was kind of just looking for anything, really. A couple people have said a couple things, which were definitely interesting to kind of think about. And I don't know, just kind of see some things. I don't know. Part of me is am I supposed to be expecting these things? I don't know what to expect going into my 30s. I don't know what to expect from here on out, honestly, in life. But yeah, I feel like transition from teenage years into my 20s was, I don't know how to explain it, interesting to say the least. I feel like I started my first job, I want to say at 19, maybe 18, 19, somewhere in there. It had to be somewhere in there. Started my first job. I started as part-time, and then I did transition. I honestly don't even know when, how long after I had started. It was with the same, throughout the same company, I had transitioned into full time. So I went from just starting my first job, trying to learn the ropes. It was in retail. So you're trying to learn retail. It was also food related. So trying to learn concepts of that because, like I said, it was my first job. So I haven't worked anywhere or with anything. So you're trying to learn everything you need to know about the job in general. You're learning about food processes and everything, how long things are cooked for, when to cook what. You're kind of just learning every rope. As I transitioned through this job, I also had gone, like I said, full time, also into management. So you're starting to learn a lot more basis of the job. It was ordering, it was scheduling, it was management stuff. You're just kind of learning a lot as you're moving up position wise, if that makes sense. You also got a lot more responsibility, I feel, from teenage years into your 20s. Obviously, you hit 18, everyone considers you an adult, and depending on your life and how things are going, you have bills that either start or a new bill that's added. When I first got my license, I know I was like super excited to get a car. I feel like it definitely took me a little bit to save up for a car after I got my license, but my mom was letting me use her car when she wasn't using it. Like if I wanted to go out and hang with friends, I know like right almost after I got my license, I know I took my brothers and we took a trip to Dairy Queen, but it was kind of like a she's not just going to let me use it just to use it. Like we have to make sure we had enough money for the ice cream that we wanted, to put gas in the car, to kind of replace the gas we were using, just kind of stuff like that. And then when I finally had first got when I finally got my first car, obviously there was a lot more responsibility with that stuff. Car payments were now included with the vehicle, um, car insurance. I feel like when I got my license, obviously I was added to the car insurance because of the fact that I was going to be operating whatever vehicle I want to say was available, which was just my mom's car, I think, at the moment. And when I was getting my own car, then I started paying for my own insurance. Obviously, car payments, like I just said, gas whenever I needed gas in the vehicle, like anything like that was just more bills added to my plate, if that makes sense, which honestly was to be expected as you're growing up. Unfortunately, adult life is not as fun as they say. Bills and bills and bills. Something I feel like is always coming out somewhere, which is definitely gets intense. I don't want to say intense. It gets kind of intense. Sometimes I feel like I don't even know where money is coming or going. Sometimes I just like look in my account and I'm like, "Oh, I didn't know that was coming out." Like part of me really likes to write everything out. Either I have so much like in my notes app of like things I need to remember to pay, but at the same time I like looking in a calendar and being like, "Okay, like I get paid this day, I have to pay like this bill, this bill, this bill when I get paid here," type of thing. Like I don't know, I like to know what bills are coming out of what paycheck, if that makes sense. Um, I am such like a calendar lover. I love putting appointments and just little things I know I need to remember. My memory is awful, so it definitely helps me a lot. So I definitely like to put a lot into a calendar to actually physically see everything, when things are coming out, when things are due. I'm not a type of person to use like auto payments. I don't like money just coming out of my account. I like the actual physical hit the pay now or whatever button. I like to know when my money's coming out, type of when it's coming out, what it's going to, type of thing. I know a lot of um things, I don't know how to describe it. A lot of things are like if you set up auto payment, you get like money off, or you could save this or you could save that. Part of me like is like obviously like that's super nice, but I'm not an auto pay person. I like paying it myself, if that makes sense, whether it's through an app and I just have to press the pay now, confirm the credit or debit card. If I have to go somewhere and like physically pay something, I'd rather go and do that. And it's funny because I was actually talking to my family about it. I forget how it was mentioned or how it was brought up, but I forget what my mom said. I think my mom would just like do auto payments just to make sure things get paid, which is totally fair because I know sometimes like I said, if I don't have things written down or like physically looking at things, I forget due dates. And at that point, like I hate getting that email that's like, oops, like missed a payment, because those always stress me out. It could be like a day after, but I'm like, oh my God, I totally forgot to pay that. I don't want to get those emails. I like the ones that are like, hey, just remember, like this payment's coming up. I love those reminder emails. Those definitely save me a lot sometimes. But I know my dad was like, yeah, no, I don't do auto payments. My dad's the same way. I'd rather know when my money's getting taken out, where it's going, the fact that like I did it, that type of thing. My brother was the same way. He is a he'd rather pay it type of person as well. So at least I'm not the only one. And yeah, I don't know. That's just not my vibe. That's not my cup of tea for that. I'd rather pay and know like we're good with the situation. Like obviously if it comes out with auto payments, like you're gonna be good, but yeah, I don't know. I just like physically pressing the confirm or pay now button type of thing. I don't know when I ended up getting my own phone line, but I know I ended up on my own phone plan. That obviously is a new expense, a new responsibility, another bill, like I said, that gets added to your plate as you're kind of transitioning through life. A couple things that I have also added to my plate, also had already in my life from kind of mid to like where I am now in my 20s. I've already owned a house. Me and my ex had owned a house at one point before we ended up kind of downsizing and moving to a new town, new territory type of thing. When I um, got pregnant, which was another thing that I've gone through, that's obviously a lot more stuff, a lot of baby stuff, a lot of prepping, nursery, like things you'll need for the baby, like as he goes through years. We had like pack and plays, we had little swings, we had toys. Like he's now, from when I'm recording this, he actually turns 3 tomorrow. So from what he's had till now and what he's gonna potentially have to have like in the future, all that stuff. I personally didn't want my son growing up in the town that we had lived in when we had the house. So we did look around for houses, apartments in, I don't even want to say surrounding towns because we did live pretty far from where we were, but we ended up in an apartment, which was the first. So right there, like that was the first time I've owned a house, had my own house. And then we had moved into an apartment. That was honestly the first apartment I'd ever been into. I haven't actually lived on my own, if I'm being honest. I have lived with my parents until my ex and I moved into our house, which was probably at the age of like 23, maybe 22, 23 area. And then we had moved into an apartment, I think when I was turning 26. I had our son at 25, and I think we moved like 6 months after he was born. So when I was like turning 26, we had moved into our own apartment. Now we're not together anymore. We have gone kind of separate ways. He's in his own place, and I've moved back to my parents. So I've never actually been on my own, which would definitely be a whole new experience of things on my plate. But definitely looking into places like that. That's definitely hopefully to come in the near future. But owning a house, anything like baby related, first apartment, like I said, wasn't by myself, but still a step. It's still first time situation, if that makes sense. So now I feel like because of things I had already gone through or been through from teenage years till now, part of me was just kind of like questioning, like, I don't know what to expect going into my 30s. I don't know if everything is really that different, if it's like a big jump and major life like steps from here on out. I don't know if it's kind of going to feel the same and you're just kind of aging at that point. Um Soon JJ will start like preschool, kindergarten. He's 3, so he's in a daycare now. I feel like 4 or 5 years old, he'll probably be in like a preschool type of situation and kind of stepping up in his little milestones here. 5, 6 years old, he's probably going to start kindergarten, which to think that's only in a couple years is crazy to think about. Like, part of me is like, I don't even want to think about that yet, but definitely going to be starting super soon. I feel like time is just flying by, so it's just bound to come up and happen. I feel like I definitely want to progress with this podcast. Everything in the future will be super new for me. I feel like definitely want to keep that going. I definitely want to get more on board with YouTube and still kind of be into that. Like I said, I don't know what 30 is going to bring for me. I'm definitely not even thinking of like 40s era. I don't know if I like will hit 30 and will come up with like other hobbies I'll get into. I definitely see myself doing this podcast for a really long time. I don't know if like I definitely want to be doing YouTube. I definitely want to put that into my lifestyle at some point. I need to get better at like planning and obviously finding like housing stuff. I do kind of want to be on my own. I've always kind of wanted to experience that. I wasn't and I'm not mad about any of the choices that I made of literally moving out of my parents into a place with someone else and skipping the whole like living on my own, it's experiencing it on my own for the first time. Not mad about any of those options. I loved the way that actually has played out. I'm not mad, honestly, at the fact that I'm back at my parents'. It is what it is. It's what I needed to do for myself at this time. But I am looking forward to potentially finding that next step of living on my own. I don't really know where that situation is going to be quite yet, which is part of why it hasn't happened. Obviously, need to make sure I'm financially good on my own as well, which is another reason why it hasn't happened yet. So, a lot of steps need to be taken in this direction. And I'm hoping it's all going to work out and come together very soon. But I don't know, like part of me is like, I definitely see myself doing this podcast. Is YouTube going to be part of the plan? I definitely hope so, but I'm not going to keep anything around, like kind of just to keep it around, if that makes sense. YouTube has not really been working out for me so far, so I'm not going to push the issue just because I want to do it. Like I want it to kind of fit in to my lifestyle, if that makes sense. I don't even know if that makes sense, but a lot of plans need to be adjusted. A lot of lifestyle things need to be adjusted. Job, I don't know if I'm going to be at the same job I'm at now. I'm actually like kind of working two jobs, so I definitely a plan is to get down to one, but we'll see how everything plays out. We'll see how that all comes together. But for now, it is what it is. And that's what I kind of need to do for myself, for my son, family, whatever. So we'll see how all of that plays out. But there's definitely little baby steps that need to be taken in between figuring out life, I guess, from here on out. But yeah, I don't know. It was definitely just interesting to kind of do the whole meeting my younger self and thinking back. I did about 10 years ago. So I was thinking kind of like 2014, 2015, I think, when I was like 18, 19 years old, I think is what I did. And I feel like thinking back then to answer the little questions that I had in last week's episode and kind of picturing myself back then, and it was kind of like a what your younger self would answer then and what your self would answer now. I feel like that was like a progression. And then now I'm kind of like, dang. And then now, and then even if I go 10 years in the future, I'll be almost through my 30s, going into my 40s. And I'm like, wow, like part of me doesn't want to think that far ahead. Like I just want to get through 30s as I get through them. But it's kind of definitely a deeper question of definitely wondering where I'll be at in life, what'll be going on, personal life. I don't know, just everything in general. I feel like, will there be like new friendships? Am I going to start another job and meet new people? Am I going to live somewhere and meet new people? I feel like I've definitely met new people through work, and that's kind of how I really meet the people I have in my life. But I don't know, maybe we'll be spontaneous in our 30s and go out by ourselves and meet people that way. That'll be totally out of my comfort zone. If you know, you know. I'm definitely a homebody. I'm definitely very introverted. So going out and doing things on my own are definitely not things I would typically do. That would definitely be something I'd have to push myself to do, but maybe that's what 30 will bring. I don't really know. Definitely a lot of questions, definitely a lot of thoughts, definitely a lot of scary moments, I feel, nervous things to think about and go through, but I feel like that's just life and you get through it all in some way, shape, or form. But with that being said, that is all I have for this episode. I love you guys so, so much. Thank you guys so much for listening, and I'll see you next week back with a brand new episode. Bye.